Okay, today we're going to make a planetary shader like this. We're also going to work on how to configure the SkyAtmosphere to look really nice around your planet. So this is just the shader, and then this is with the SkyAtmosphere. Shader still has like some Fresnel to give it some atmospheric look, but getting your SkyAtmosphere to work around it just adds, I think it adds a lot. I really like the touch that it does. And what we're going to do, this is going to be quite a long video, I think. The way I think we're going to approach it, though, is we're going to work on there's kind of sections here. We're going to set up this graph first, start a new project with all the different sections, and we're going to work on the fun stuff first to kind of get things looking somewhat good quickly. And then we're going to add in a bit more complex elements like the aurora and the storms that happen in the clouds, and kind of layer in the more detailed elements of it. Since the actual like day-night mask is somewhat simple, and then we'll kind of progress from there. This one is using the main kind of concept that makes this neat is there's what's called a named reroute declaration node like this, which you can create and then you can call it like this. So this is the main kind of system we're going to use to make our material quite neat. We're not going to sort it quite as intensely as this is sorted. I'm just going to kind of go through this to see all the different elements. However, we will be setting up all these sections. Like for example, I have sorted these and put them into groups, so that way it looks quite nice in the material instance. There's all the values in order to get the effect that I have in my video, in case you're looking for that. Even this is in a default engine texture. That's the tutorial that this is mostly based off of. There's been quite a few tutorials about this topic of making a nice planetary shader, but the latest one I've seen is like still a few years old. So I thought, and I haven't also seen one that implements the SkyAtmosphere into your planet. So we're going to include that and kind of bring together some of this knowledge. This one is actual scale. So this is the actual diameter of the Earth. This is with a custom sphere. So a little hint, if you make your sphere approximate size 200,000 world units, what that means is this number here on what you scale it to will match whatever you should put into your ground radius. So this is in kilometers. So there's I guess because, and then this is also radius. So 100,000 world units, which is centimeters. 100,000 centimeters equals kilometers. So that's why that math works out. The one we're going to be making is actually going to be a bit smaller. Oops, since this is so small, I had my speed set really high. So this is the one we're going to be making. We still need it somewhat high. There we go. There we go. So you notice still looks quite good. Another thing about this shader is it's scale independent. I've seen previous versions of this that get kind of strange when you scale up your planet and you have to readjust all the values. This one doesn't care about that. It still looks exactly the same regardless of the size of the planet you put it on. And then this one also has a SkyAtmosphere, but it's scaled down, so it doesn't look quite as accurate as it would on like actual Earth, but I think it's still a really nice effect, particularly I'm a sucker for the way the light kind of cuts off on the atmosphere and even kind of gets a bit reddish at like the evening. I think that's a really nice effect that I super like. Yeah, you can even see it kind of, oh, and then we will see this weird flickering. That's actually fixable. There's actually a CVar you can put into your project, which will do, I just throw it into the level blueprint. So on begin play this CVar. So I'm not going to play, but I'm just going to paste the CVar. Let me throw that into, I have a video on the CVar actually, but so if we play, CVar is run. See, it's not, doesn't do the weird tiling bit anymore. So that's a nice tip if you're doing that. Okay, with that being said, last thing I want to kind of mention is where all these textures came from. There's this super awesome site, which will be linked in the description, called Solar System Textures, or Solar System Scope Textures, and they're just right here. The ones we're going to be using, we're using the Earth Day Map, the Earth Night Map, the Earth Clouds, Earth Normal Map, and the Specular Map here. The one we have to generate, and then you can grab some stars if you want to. We're not going to be doing that in the video unless we have time. The one you have to generate, and I'll even generate it for you here. And I'm going to make this sphere as well. So what you do is you take the clouds, and just drag it into GIMP. Photoshop can also do this. I'm going to convert this. Yeah. And then if you go to filters, generic, normal map, I typically just put this at 1. It starts off, mine starts off at 10 for some reason. If you put it off 1, it will like barely look like anything. But you kind of want that. That's okay. Clouds aren't super huge, and this texture is so large that it's going to be fairly subtle, but rest assured, it will show up in your, like you can see that. It does have an effect. But that's partly preference. If you want it to be harsher, you can scale it up in your material or scale it up when you convert it. The other thing I'm going to mention is the planet itself. There's some settings right here. So the main thing that you're just generating a UV sphere. So UV sphere, just like that. And then in the generation values, I wanted mine to be super smooth. So I multiplied this by both of these by 20. So it has 640 segments and 320 rings. And then the main thing to get is you want it to have a radius of 1000 and make sure it generates UVs. So if we put 1000, this is going to make it super huge. If you want to look at it correctly, you can increase your clipping plane a bit here under view. Oh, that's also my shortcut to pause the video. And that's going to be, even if you, I kind of upped it since I wanted a good amount of geo. Even if you just do it like by 10, like this, that's going to give you a nice smooth edge. And go ahead and shade it smooth. So the main thing you're wanting is this to look smooth, since that's what you're going to see a lot on your planet. And this is about 50,000 polys. Obviously, you can reduce the polys if you don't want that much geo, but this is how to get that look. The main thing you want to make sure imported correctly is when you click the actual geo, is this 200,000 in terms of approximate size. You notice it's 199. 998. You know, that's what we want. And as long as it's that, it should match up correctly. So this has a scale of 1, and then you notice the atmosphere has a ground radius of 1, and that's how to get those line up. You also need to kind of finagle with the atmosphere settings to get it looking okay at this small of a scale. The atmosphere really isn't made to work at this small of a scale, but it still does. Okay, I've covered all the basics. We're now going to open up a new version of Unreal and get started recreating this shader here. We're going to do it in 4.27.2. This should work in Unreal Engine 5 and beyond. There's nothing special about 4 we're using. I just like to use the lowest possible engine version we can in order to get things working. Because you can always migrate forward, but it's a lot harder to migrate backward. Okay. We're actually going to make this in the flying one, just because I think that might be cool. Just so we can preview it. And what should we call this? We'll call this planetary shader tutorial. We'll call it planet shader. Planet, there we go. We'll make that. Excellent. So I'm going to start by making just a folder called custom art. I usually do that when messing around. And we're going to bring in our textures here. So all of these, you can add in the moon if you want as well. That's on that website. Grabbing the planet UV sphere, and that should be everything. I'm gonna go ahead, don't need collision. I'm gonna grab this one and I'm just gonna push it over to the other side. Okay, no smoothing groups, that's fine. It looks fine. Okay, here we go. Okay, so we're just gonna make our material. We're gonna make this planet. It's really a shader quite specific to Earth, but you could make this work for other planets as well if you wanted. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do here is we're actually going to, you can keep all these default, there's nothing really special I think you need to change. There's nothing that comes to mind. Yeah. So we're actually going to set up all the reroute nodes, and then we're going to kind of fill them in as the video progresses. So, if you just type named, that will give you what you want. So I'm just going to work from the top down. This will be spec, then we'll call that. What I'm doing for spec, there might be better ways to handle this, but I'm just going to 1- this and put it into roughness. I kind of like the ocean being quite shiny if you want it to be. I'm going to grab in the specular map. I'm going to bring in stuff individually. I'm just going to put it there for now as a placeholder. It's not what it's going to be for final, but and then I'm going to make one for, I think this one we made like green. Yeah, we'll make them somewhat similar. We won't get too into the sorting like the other shaders. Took a lot of time to kind of set it up. We are then going to make a switch here. So static switch parameter is what we want. And this is just going to be clouds question mark. And as you can imagine, that's just going to control if there's clouds or not. And the way we're going to do that, this is kind of a weird way to do it, since we're like setting up all these connections before the actual systems exist. But I think that might give this some structure. So this one's going to be cloud mask. Just like that. Make it like that. Some cloud color, I don't know. So then you see your named reroutes right there. This is going to be add. Oh, by the way, if you hold Control and Shift, you can like grab little nodes like that. Cool little tip. Hold down L for lerp. This is going to go into B. This is going to also go to B. And then that goes to that. Okay. Q lines everything up, by the way. If you're just to get it out of the way, we're going to do normals right here. And we're just going to plug that into here. It's going to get mad at all this stuff, but let's go ahead and actually, we might set this up since the normals are pretty not too complicated. Well, we'll finish with this. But we'll fill out the spec and normals real quick because they're quite simple. And we want another switch parameter right here. This one is going to be storms. Okay, so this one, if there's no clouds, just feed this directly into there. If there is clouds though, go ahead and blend in the cloud mask and into all of these. And then, oh, we don't actually need two of these. It should just be one. Don't know why we did that. Okay. And then we need another named reroute node, and it's going to be day/night. It's going to be the day-night mask, but this one is going to be for the clouds. We're going to have two day-night mask. And this gives kind of, it was actually a suggestion in the comments of one of those videos where I'll show you the effect. I actually really like it. Or what it does is you see the daytime is kind of fading right here. But the daytime for the clouds is fading a bit after that. So the clouds kind of fade further along than the actual day-night of the planet, giving the impression that they're kind of like higher up in the atmosphere and are exposed to the sun for longer. So that's why there's two separate masks for the clouds and the Earth, which is a super nice effect. Let that just get blent up. There we go. So now we got the storms. I'm just going to put all these up here for now. This is going to give errors until we fill it out, but that's okay. So we're going to add some storms. This is just going to be kind of an additive effect. It's the same color as our clouds. Maybe we'll make these yellow. There we go. So storms goes there. Actually, it won't. We're going to add this to whatever comes through, like that. We're going to have a lerp here. And the default of the lerp will go into there. And then we're going to have almost done setting this up. We're going to have 2 more switches. I'm just going to grab this and copy it. This one is going to be Aurora, question mark. And then the other one is going to be atmospheric Fresnel. I'm just copying the name over here so the spelling's the same. Like that. Because the Aurora will be mostly on the night side, and then the atmospheric Fresnel is going to be mostly on the day side. So that means we can put the day, we actually need to make a new one here. Day / night mask. Okay, which is going to be separate from our clouds day night mask. And we'll make that like dark. Okay. And the last 4 that we need here is one for the Aurora, one for the night side, one for the day side, and one for atmosphere Fresnel, which is such a weird word, but we like it since it's Fresnel looks nice. Everything has Fresnel. Okay, so here we're going to add the Aurora to the night side. Let's change those colors. We'll make the Aurora green, night side quite dark. That. Make the day side like a yellow. We'll make the Fresnel like a blue. Okay. And then the day side. Atmospheric Fresnel, and we're going to add these together like this. This will go into true, and then we'll just feed the day side directly into it if it's false. And then the same here, where if this is false, you just feed the night side directly in. Mostly these are here in case like you want to use this on a planet that like doesn't have an atmosphere, like the moon or something like that. You don't have to. You can use the same shader, and you should be good. Okay. Right now we can't compile this though because everything is it's going to get mad at us. since nothing's actually feeding into this. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to press 1, make a 0, and I'm just going to feed this into all of these. And just make them all black, basically. Just so, I think this should make it compile. Any more? Okay, I think that's it. Yeah, there we go. Oh, missing one. Are these true? No, they're not. Let's turn everything to be true. So we want all the features by default. Does this compile? Yes, it does. Okay. So this is our overview. We'll be filling these in and getting them to work. But before that, let's set up our, actually post-process, we're gonna keep mixer set to infinite and then the typically exposure. Yep, that's what they have. Set this to movable, this to movable. We may actually remove this. I don't think we need the skylight. Let's see what settings we have here. Yeah. Or, yeah, no, we can keep it around. We don't need any of these renders. The flying pawn we don't need, since we have the sky blueprint we won't need. The one thing we do want is going to be all the, we can delete all this geo. Okay. Lighting, we don't need the light mass importance volume, and then this will obviously change. This is the wrong atmosphere, actually. We want the fancy one, which we can get here. We're going to save our original one, and we are going to grab the SkyAtmosphere is what we want. So we go flying BP, maps. Yeah, we'll save that. There we go. Okay. So we have our planet. There we go. Quite big. So if we make the SkyAtmosphere, I'm just going to parent this into here. And then I'm going to set the transform mode to planet center at component transform, like that, which makes it a bit weird. But then we set this to 1, which still makes it a bit weird, but we are going to fix that. The height we are going to set quite small, since our planet is very small. 0.3. Notice it basically goes away entirely. We're going to increase the Rayleigh scattering because the scale is a lot smaller. There you go. You can kind of see, oops, this super gorgeous effect, which you notice is linked to the direction. Look at that. That's really nice. However, this is a bit too harsh for me. I want it to be a bit softer. So I'm going to decrease the exponent here. Let's do 0.1 and see what that is. That looks nice. I like 0.1. And this is how to get it to look. Obviously, you can change these settings to be whatever you want. But that's how to get it to look nice around our planet. Okay, let's go ahead and I'm going to paste in this CVar. So blueprints, open level blueprint. I'm going to copy this from the other project, just like this. Execute console command, which is just execute. If I can spell execute. Execute console command right there. That's what we're using. And we're just putting on begin play. And let's move to top view. And you just move this right outside the planet. If you move it too far out, Unreal will freak out, unless you're in Unreal Engine 5, since you start having float routing errors. Okay. Wrong direction. I wonder if we can turn it. There we go. We can move a little bit. There we go, outside the planet. This is just for preview. We don't care too much. I'll move it up a little bit. Okay. And let's get we're actually going to make an instance here, planet instance, and we're going to put that as the material. What's our scale? I'm going to add just a little bit faster, just so we can zip around a bit better. It's looking super weird since the specular is very strange, but we are going to start working on that. Okay, the first thing, actually let's do the spec and normals, since those are quite easy to set up, so that might be kind of nice. I'm going to do the normals first, and we're actually just going to copy this clouds one. We want to copy it exactly because we want it to technically be the same. So I'm going to open up our instance. So see, right now we got all the switches, which we can turn on and off, which don't really do anything right now since. Okay, I'm going to do Control-Shift-S to save everything because Unreal crashes sometimes. We don't want to be heartbroken. Okay. So then clouds, this is the normals. This will go into here, and we are going to just grab our two normals right here. It's kind of hard to tell which one's which. This is Earth normal. This is the clouds normal. So these are just going to be added together. And we will add both of them together if we do have clouds, and if we don't have clouds, we just use the Earth one. Pretty straightforward. The two things that we are going to add into here is we need another named, there we go. We are going to make something called a surface panner, and then we are going to a cloud panner. We'll make those slightly different colors. There we go. And this will go into the UV, so surface, panner, and cloud panner, just like that. And this will be our normals. So we'll just put them up there. Okay, let's create these two things, which we'll use for the actual material as well, so we're kind of reusing it a little bit. The panners are fairly simple. So we are going to hold down, I think S, yeah. And then just click, and surface rotation is what we're going to call this. The Earth in particular rotates from the west to the east, or counterclockwise from the top. I'm not sure if I used the right terminology, so it's actually going to be a negative number here. And then we're going to just make float 2. And then we're going to hold down P to get a panner, and we're just going to put that into the speed. Partly, you can technically put your value into X here, but then you can't see it from the outside. And I kind of like a material that when you like pan over it, you can know what everything is. There's no like hidden values inside of nodes. That's something I like. So that's going to be our surface panner. And then the cloud panner is exactly the same, but we are just going to change the value ever so slightly. You could technically make them the same, but then they'd rotate in sync, and seeing the clouds and surface kind of rotate out of sync is a rather nice effect. Okay. Cloud panner. There we go. So now it has a normal map. It's obviously still very shiny and dark. So let us work on the day and the night. Those are going to be the next ones here. This is our kind of our to-do list that we're working through. Does this compile? It doesn't compile. What doesn't it like? Oh, because I detached these. Okay, that's okay. We're about to work on them. So we are going to grab our day and night, and we are going to drag these into here. We want we're going to, for the night side of things, let's move this up. To start, we're gonna, those nodes we just created, we're the surface panner is gonna go into both of these. Oh yeah, I think it does rotate, right? Let's just plug these in here. There we go. So now we have our rotating Earth. Very nice. With an atmosphere and a sun. Okay, I'm gonna hold down V, click that, and this is going to be the cloud shadow. We are going to need a cloud offset shadows here. So it's named which will be part of this lerp. We're gonna make this pretty dark as well. That. And this will be a lerp here. So we can blend in a bit of shadow from all the clouds, right, like that. And then we'll just have a cloud opacity. Like that. We'll have a default of like 0.9 in this one. Let me check to see. I want to know if my cloud opacity actually works. I think this might be broken. If I turn down my cloud opacity, do my clouds actually go away? No, they don't. Okay, so this is actually broken in the first material. I'm going to fix this. Looking at this, this should be, I have it set to the shadows, but this should also be here. Let's see, how should this be set up? Cloud opacity. If I'm adding in the clouds here, I think it tells you lerp. Hold on, lerp. think this should be B. This should be this, and this should be this. Let's see if that works. There we go. Now the cloud settings actually work. Excellent. Yeah, I'm glad I caught that. Previously, I was only fading in the shadows of the clouds with the cloud opacity, since I actually redid how I did the shadows. So we're gonna copy that. Here. Thanks guys, helping me improve my shader. Fix the bugs of it. So this should go here. And make sure to keep this name the same. Okay. Okay. So we got cloud opacity. This goes into here. And we will copy this switch here actually. For night side. Why we don't actually want that there. We have these offset. This will go to day side eventually. So if there is clouds, throw on the shadows. If not, just use the surface killer, which we will. By the way, this is Shift D is what puts it into alignment. And this is our day side, just like that. And then our night side, let's go ahead and put this one here for now. And this color, I don't like making it totally black. I just make it like very, very dark, 0.01 something. And then for the night side, we're going to create a vector here called urban color. And we'll give it like a yellow. And we're just going to multiply this here. And then we can continue to this cloud shadow color. We're going to lerp it in the same way. However, for this one, we are going to use the cloud mask. And the distinction between the cloud mask and the cloud offset shadows will become more clear. One is basically the clouds in the atmosphere, and one is the clouds on the ground, which we will kind of make a distinction by using a bump offset, which is a nice way to kind of add some depth to the cloud system. This one, though, we want the clouds in the atmosphere, so this is just the cloud mask, and the other one is the offset. This one I kind of like. This is not mandatory, but I'm going to call it cloud mask contrast, like this. And we're going to do a cheap contrast right here. Just because at night, it's kind of, if you don't contrast it, it can be kind of hard to see the mask obscuring the urban lights. This will be inverted actually, and we're going to saturate it. going to do that. And then once again, we are going to only do this if we actually want the clouds, like that. And we'll just reroute these around if we don't want the clouds. So this is our night system. Night. Okay, so currently it shows up everywhere. That's okay. Let's give it a bit more vibrance. Kind of only works with one, but I feel like you can actually make it kind of blue, and it actually still turns out yellow because of the atmosphere or something. I guess this is a bit yellow. It's a bit yellow in the shader itself, so you can get away with the color a bit. It's not going to be the exact color. If you really wanted like a cleaner mask, you could potentially use like this red here. Let's see what that would give us actually. Yeah, that's like a more clean mask. Which I think this means you could also crank this up a bit higher. No, that still looks quite gross since it's not perfectly black and white. Okay. We're not going to do that though. We're just going to use the main color. You're welcome to do what you want on your shader though. Okay, let's move these away. Can we move that? Yep. Okay, so now we want the next main kind of section we're going to work on is going to be these two. The actual day-night mask. We're going to do the day-night mask, the normal one first. I'm going to order this a little bit. After this, we're going to do the spec, the atmosphere. We'll do the cloud mask first, actually. And the cloud offset shadows. And then the aurora, and then the storms. This is the order we'll work through this. I'll try to timestamp all this since this is going to be long. We're already 45 minutes in. Okay. So this is used to blend between the two sides. And this is the one that I think has improved the most. We are going to need to make another named reroute. Surprise, surprise. And one sec. This one's going to be called Normals. And I'm just going to do WS for world space, which is our world space normals. The reason we're making a named reroute here is we're actually going to use this in a few different spots. So, and what we're going to do is we're going to grab the vertex normals and we're going to add the pixel normals. And we are good to blend them. This isn't totally, pixel normals are a bit more expensive than vertex normals, but using them, I'll show you the effect. Using them means you can see the normal map in your clouds and stuff a bit better. So I'm gonna fade between the two here so you can kind of see what this does. Where is it? Use pixel normals. So this is full pixel normals. You can see a lot of detail in the clouds. And full world space normals, you see it's very flat. And I don't like total detail. This is a bit too harsh for me. So you can kind of average those out and get a nice effect. So that's what we're doing here. So we'll just create a scalar called pixel normal amount. And a default of 0.3 seems to work. Obviously, total preference. You can, and we're actually going to make another switch. And this is just going to be called use pixel normals, question mark. And if we do, we do that. And if not, we'll just use the world space, since world space are much cheaper. And we'll just plug this into there. World space normals. There we go. Right there. Okay, now we can work on our mask. So now that we have that, we are going to use a SkyAtmosphere light direction. Oh, it's the one that's highlighted there. Yes. And then normals world space name. Oh, we misspelled normals. Normals. There we go. So we are going to get the dot product of these two. And then we're going to do this weird thing. I'm going to actually create a switch here in case we don't want to do it. I like the effect. And this is going to be called mask remove light? Question mark. Because by default, us messing with this will make the decrease the size of the bright side of the planet. I actually want it in reverse. I actually want it to push the light side out. And I will show you what I actually mean by that. So we're going to need a few scalars. One is just going to be a multiply, or it's going to be dark to light fall off. And this is going to be a multiply. I think this we have off by default. This we actually want on by default. Yes, we do want to use pixel normals. Yes, we do want to use clouds. I'm just checking all those. Okay. And then the other one is going to be a power. No, we don't get that through P. Power. And the exponent here, we are just going to call dark side strength. Given to the force. Okay. This one we'll put at 3 for our default, and this one we'll put 0.96. Obviously, we can adjust them in our material instance. We are now going to clamp this. And then 1 minus part of this, we're just going to literally copy that. And if we're not doing this, we'll use the 1 minus version, which is actually what we're going to use by default. And this is our day-night mask. I'm going to put a 0 here so this compiles. The one for the clouds is going to be very similar. It will be exactly similar, actually. What is going on here? That is rather strange. What are we doing? Oh, is this marked as sky? Let's see if this is marked as sun. Atmospheric sunlight. It is. Let's see. Oh, you don't add these together. You use a dot product. Yeah. should give us an actual, gorgeous, look at that. So then if we click Control L, you can see it moves around relative to, what is going on with Japan? Oh, we're not panning the spec. I'm just gonna throw the surface panner onto here. There we go. Things are aligned, there we go. Very nice effect. You can see the night fade in. Yes, an hour in, and we finally have the actual fading of the planet. Okay. So this is our day-night mask. And then this, we are literally going to just duplicate this and rename the variables. So for mine, I literally just put an underscore like clouds, like that, just so they can be slightly different. And they're not different a lot. So for example, this side just put as a 2, and this is like an 88. And all that does, oh, we don't actually have clouds, but all that does is, like I showed earlier, makes the clouds fade a little bit. I'm gonna pump this into here just so we can show you what this actually does. And then I'm gonna take a moment, I'm gonna pause and break, and then we'll come back and go through all the other parts. Okay, so here's the mask. There's our sun. So, okay. So I'm gonna do mask removes light, which is what it is by default. And you can see how when we adjust the mask here, we're eating into the day side of our planet, which I don't actually want. I would want it to be the opposite of that. So if we inverse this, you notice we can cut. Increasing the mask means we eat into the night side of our planet. So that's all this does, is it inverts the mask just as we modify it and then throws it back. So the mask doesn't actually change, it just changes how we modify it. It's like, do we want to eat into the day side of the planet or the night side of the planet? I like eating into the night side of the planet, since you get a bit more of your actual planet surface, and you can make this a lot smoother without kind of losing detail on the surface. I'm not sure. I think honestly, if you're going for accuracy, this is probably more accurate, since just the way spheres work and suns work, there will always be more of the planet in shadow, unless you have a perfectly omnidirectional light, which that doesn't exist in the world. But I just like the way this looks, so that's why I have it set up. Okay. Okay. So here we go. Yeah, we want that checked. Okay. We're going to hook this back up to that. Okay, it seems like we have a good amount still to do, but what you'll find with projects like these is, because we're making named reroute nodes, a lot of the things we'll be making here will actually reference this stuff. So things kind of build on each other, and I think we'll be able to get done in about 20 minutes. But we will see. Probably a bit longer than that. Okay, so we have, the next thing we're going to do, I think, is the clouds. Yes, the cloud mask. Clouds aren't too bad. So we are going to grab our clouds, bring them in here. Do we want to do we're going to do both the offset and the clouds at once, since they're kind of together. So we'll grab the cloud planner right there. We're going to grab a bump offset. We're going to plug this into the UVs. We are going to want a scalar. We'll call it under texture height. And we'll give it like a value of 0.1. And then we will, oh, I'm sorry, minus 0.1, because we want it underneath, of course. Cloud depth. This one is going to be pretty small since our planet's pretty big, so relatively speaking. And we'll just close into the, like that. And then something I like to do, I'm just going to make this, I'm just going to make a texture object here. And I'll turn that to a parameter. And this is going to be our cloud texture. There's a few ways you could do this. You could name this, make this a parameter as well, and just call both of them, but we're going to reference this twice. So it's just, it makes sense in my mind to have like one thing routing into both of these. But technically, if this was just named the same variable, it would reference both of them. So that's totally up to your preference. I just kind of like how this looks visually. It logically makes sense. Like, oh, this texture feeds into both of these, instead of having to read the name of both. And it does the exact same thing. Okay, we are done. This is, we're just going to feed this into here. This is the offset one, and this is the non-offset one. And look, we have clouds. Apply. Clouds, look at that. Okay, see this? I'm not sure if it shows up in the compression. It's like rippling. Like, what the hell? What is going on there? Well, since this object is so damn big, it gets confused. And what we need to do, I'm just going to pull up the object on the other side of things. There's a variable called use precision UVs, I think. Let's see if we can find it. One moment. Okay, I found it. It's in the LOD settings. So LOD 1 or 0, I apologize. We do build settings, and then you see there's a little setting right here called full precision UVs. Click that, and then you're just gonna click apply changes. And then go to our thing, nice and smooth. I don't know if this is to scale or just how dense the mesh is, but unless you check that, it just doesn't like it. But once you do that, you see it's moving along without the ripple. So if your mesh is simpler, you might not even have that problem. This is the super dense one though, so I'll show you. Yes, very dense. It's partly because I was using this mesh with displacement in another project. You don't need that here, but it's still, it's the right scale for the atmosphere to work, so that's why I like using it. Okay, look at that. We did the clouds, both of those, and it's working. Only 3 left, or no, we'll do the spec first, but that's not too bad. What did we do for the spec? Okay, so we got the surface panner. We are going to go ahead and do a clamp right here. You actually can use the red to save a bit of res. Since this is a black and white mask. And we'll just call spec min and spec max. Min I'm going to put at like 0.1, and max I don't want it to ever really max out. 0.92 I think works pretty well. Min max, and then I would also like to have a variable called cloud spec, which we can use that cloud mask that we just made. Look at that. Cloud spec we can set to like 0.6 or something like that. I'm not actually certain how shiny clouds are. I think they're actually shinier than you would expect from space, is what I've heard, since they have like water molecules in them. But I'm sure a lot of that depends on the types of clouds or stuff like that. This is our spec. Okay, we only got 3 left. Looking nice. Planet isn't quite as shiny. We're going to add some nice Fresnel for the atmosphere, which isn't too bad. Okay. So the first thing, we're just going to do atmosphere color. You misspelled that. Still. There we go. I'm going to be a bit pretentious. I'm going to grab this actual color, the Rayleigh scattering color, and I'm just going to paste that into here. So that way it's the same. Why is this weird? I think it didn't update or something. We are going to grab a Fresnel, I don't know. And we want some scalars. Sphere, exponent goes into that one. 1.2, and then base reflect. You can keep this at 0. It's totally fine. We can throw in a power node. I keep thinking holding down P gives you power, but no, that's Panner. And then we're going to make a scalar. I'm going to set this to maybe like 1.5 by default. Something like that. Multiply. And then the last thing we'll do here is we're going to make a scalar for the emissive. Which we will also just multiply. And then this will be our atmosphere. Let's mess with that a little bit. We're going to turn off our SkyAtmosphere so we can actually see this. Let's see here. Is this getting applied? Where is the atmosphere? Atmosphere. Yes. Getting add. Multiply, exponent, power. What is going on here? we need to set that to at least 1. We multiply by 0, obviously you get nothing. There we go. We got a nice atmosphere, which is a super nice effect. I think it, if anything, actually complements the existing atmosphere, kind of blends it into the shader, so to speak. The last two, we're going to make the aurora, which is a bit complicated. Not too bad. I'll do my best to explain it. Just pulling up my reference here. Okay. So we're going to start off, I'm going to make 2 variables. Oops. These aren't actually going to be scalars. They're just going to be, hold down 1 and make them. These I'm going to hard code. Technically, you could make them whatever, like expose them, so to speak. But they're kind of easy to make look bad, and they don't actually like affect a lot. Like you just kind of need it to work. It's not really an artistic thing. It can be, but I choose to not expose these. Okay, so we're going to kind of make 2 float 2s, and we're going to kind of mix these 2 variables like this. And what we're going to hook these into is we're going to hook them into 2 separate panners, and we're going to put this speed into here. And we want these to be kind of like overlapping in a way where they will kind of make a nice mask for us. Something that we do want to expose is the aurora scale, which will just double it. And we're going to multiply both of these. If you've noticed, vector 2 in the panner, these are both going to be the UV values for our aurora mask, which we can set up now. The sample texture, I'll show you the texture sample right here. We're obviously going to have 2 of these. The one we're going to want, I think it's called like laser. So this is actually under, make sure to do show engine content. It's an engine texture. I don't know what they use it for originally, but that's what it is. And we're going to plug that in here. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm just going to make a texture object of this guy. I'm just going to put it in there. This one I will expose though. This one I will call convert to parameter. I'm just called aurora texture. This is our mask. So we're going to multiply both of these. I'm going to show you what this is doing real quick. Are these moving? Okay, so you can kind of see what it's doing. It's like blending in and out, or it's kind of shifting. That's all this is doing. If you want to give access to the person so they can increase the speed, you can, but okay. We are now going to create a aurora color node. Give it a nice green, something like that. And we're going to lerp this in to B, and this will be the alpha, and then 0 will be the A. And then we're going to use another lerp here. Okay. But currently you notice that this is everywhere. So we want it at the top, but we don't want it too far at the top since it gets very strange at the pole. So we're going to kind of create a mask for the North Pole and then cut off the top. So the way we're going to do that, I'm actually just going to complete this here. We'll make the mask in a moment. I'll just make do Aurora emissive. Just so you know, guys, you technically don't need to create these emissive multipliers. I like it as controls, but if you really want to make something emissive, you can technically set colors beyond 1. So like you could just set this to be 5 and that gives literally the same effect. But I like this in the way it shows up in the material instance to have that emissive there. So I think it's not bad practice. And we're going to reset the emissive here. Okay. We're going to use a node called bounding box. What's this called? There we go. Bounding box UVW. And what this basically does is it creates a mask from the top of the object to the bottom of the object. So right now, we'll apply this. You see we got Aurora everywhere, which is kind of a cool effect, to be honest, but we don't actually want that. We want it only kind of at the top here. So the way we're going to do this is we're just going to grab the B, which is the Z component of this, and we are going to power multiply this, and we're going to use 2 variables. We're going to call Aurora mask, which we'll set to be like 65, and I'm actually going to show you what this is doing. Emissive color. So if we click unlit, you can see what it's kind of doing. It's masking out the top, which is good. That's what we want. We're going to duplicate this. And this is going to be Aurora mask correction. And this is functionally speaking the part we don't want there to be an Aurora. And we're just going to lerp these like this. However, this we want to be 0. And this goes into the alpha. I'm going to connect this real quick. So you can see there's like a section. This is dark, and this is dark, and the only section that's not is right here. Why do we actually see the planet there? That's confusing. I'm not certain why we see the planet. Is it showing the spec? It shouldn't be. Spec, roughness, normals. Interesting. Anyway, if we reconnect this, you should see the effects here. We actually need to adjust the light to bring it a little further north. There we go. We got a nice Aurora. So we'll label this Aurora. This was one of the more confusing ones. I'm just overviewing it real quick. Okay, last one, storms. Storms are a little weird. To be honest, I'm not entirely happy with them. And they're kind of complicated. If you can make some better storms, I would love to see what you do. But here's how I did them. So I started off with a color. So lightning color. This is like a kind of a blue color to contrast with the lights. I did storm, missive, like that. Multiplied this together. What did I use? Like something like 12. And then I'm lerping this here. I'm going to use the same thing I used for this guy right here. The cloud mask contrast. Why did we spell it that way? Contrast, there we go. Which I'll put at 1. Or no, we'll make this. I'm going to duplicate this. Actually, only want this section though. We don't need to saturate it or anything. And I'm going to rename this to the storm mask contrast, and we'll put that at 1. We want that to be a bit harsher, like that. Okay, here's where things get weird. And to be honest, I'm not entirely sure why this works. I just kind of messed around with it until it looked okay. I can explain what I know, but there's some math going on here that is basically black magic. Okay. So we're going to use a time node, and we are going to use a sine wave, and this one's going to be 0.5. I'm going to label this though 0.5 since it doesn't actually display that. I think they fixed that in the later engine versions where you can actually see what it says even outside, but until then we'll just label it like that. You can do that with any node, by the way. You can put comments on them, which is quite nice. Okay, so this, I'll show you what this is doing. It's just flashing. Okay. This doesn't look like storms though, but you can see what it's kind of doing. It's just turning something on and off. We're going to mix this with another sine wave to make a flicker effect. This is actually, I think a lot of this I'm kind of deriving from a flashlight tutorial I did a long time ago. So we are once again going to grab the time, and we are going to multiply this with 2 things. So this is going to be storm flicker rate, which is 0.01, and storm flicker speed, which is going to be 1. If you had to make me explain the difference between the rate and the speed, not a clue. I could guess, but to be honest, I'm not quite sure what's the difference between these two. I could kind of reverse engineer and look at the math, but this is just how to make it work. This seems to give a flicker effect. Okay, we're then going to multiply these. We're going to grab the sine wave again. This one will be 1 though. Change it there. And get the fraction of this. And then this is going to be, let me show what this is doing. So this is a lot harsher of a flicker. I'm actually going to turn that off, so it's quite annoying. There you go. So this one's like a steady pulse, which is more for the mask, and then this flicker is like the lightning itself. So this one is more like when to show the lightning, and the other one is when the lightning shows up, I want it to flicker. So that's kind of the difference between these two masks. They're both using sine waves, but they're for kind of different reasons. In terms of the panner here, did I actually put... Interesting, okay. So we're gonna have storm amounts. And we are just going to multiply a panner. I don't actually know why I used a panner here. I'm actually only using, I'm gonna label this. I'm actually only using this on one of them. Like this. So this is 0, this is 1. Why is there a panner there? I don't know. I was still messing with. Make a texture object. Make this a parameter. And we're using the same texture, but this is the storm mask. And then I kind of just hard code in the scale here. This one was 16 and this was 4. Out of everything, I think the storms could probably be the most improved. But we just got something to work. Okay. And then the storm amounts, which we'll put at like 0.1. We'll multiply these, use the red since this is just a mask, black and white. And then this one, we actually are just going to cut down. That's kind of the problem I had with the storms is if they're too prominent, they look quite awful. Like you can see the mask right now. It's like that doesn't look like storms at all. So it's like you want them, in my opinion anyway, you want them like pretty subtle, but you want them to be noticeable. So kind of finding that balance is quite, I think I got it to look pretty good on the one that I did, but there's certainly, like maybe there's a way to do it where it's not as subtle, but it still looks good. Like the part of the reason why I want it to be subtle is that, in my opinion, it doesn't actually hold up very well. And then we're going to use one more lerp effect here. So this will be actually the alpha of all this. And this goes right into here. And I think we're done. There's a few things I'm going to go over. Yeah, about 30 minutes is what everything took. Okay. Goodness. Okay, let's see if we can actually find some storms. We're gonna, typically what I do when I'm working on the storms is you can just crank them up. Storm amount. Where is that? Storm amounts right there. And just put like 12 or something like that. See how that looks. Yeah, there you go. So they are there. But you don't need them to be that harsh. Maybe we can increase it a little bit. What's it look like at like 1? Yeah, there you go. 1 isn't bad. You can kind of see it. You can see them. They're technically on both sides of the planet. But you can just notice them a bit easier on the dark side. Okay, so this is our shader. This is storms. The things I'm going to mention is obviously you can sort this. I'm going to compare this and label all these variables and label them and set their sort priority so they show up better in your material group. So just as contrast, this is like this one. I also set all the textures to be parameters as well and labeled those and put them in their categories. I kind of categorized it by how I sort it here, just because that makes logical sense to me. The other things to mention here is, let's see here. So we've gone over the planet, the scale. We're gonna make a quick moon, and I'm gonna show you a cool hack. Or maybe we won't do that, but this, yeah, we're gonna make a moon. Why not? This is, one second. We need to do some algebra, or we'll eyeball it. I think it's 0.3. Should look good. You can actually, like, a cool thing in this one, so I'm going to go to the full scale one. We'll save this. Okay. So there's actually a moon there. And a cool thing here is, since it is to scale, you can put the actual distance from the Earth to the moon there. And this is the actual diameter of the moon. So what this looks like, that's actually right, which is, I kind of like that. Obviously, you can change it for artistic reasons. We are going to make it just a super simple moon texture. We're going to grab in, oh, we don't want to, let's put it under custom art, there we go. Moon, we're going to make a new material, moon. And we are just going to grab this guy, day-night mask. We're not even gonna, we're gonna put this here. And we'll just drag in the moon texture. And I'm gonna grab this clouds texture, make it a bit darker. No reason for it to be blue. Add another 0 there. And we're just gonna lerp this alpha. I think this is right. Emissive like that. And then we'll make it very rough. The moon is almost like super, super rough since it's all dusty. I guess it is silicon, so maybe it sparkles or something, but I always imagine the moon is super rough. There we go. Throw in the moon. Got the nice moon. Let's add in some stars, which we should be able to we're just going to grab in a sphere. And I think in the engine there's something called Skybox. A sky sphere. Yeah. I'll just give this like a crazy big value. What did we put in there? Is it 1 million? Hard to say. One, two, three. 100 million is what we put there. I'll put 1 million. Is that okay? Yeah, 1 million will be fine. We're gonna make another material here. Stars. Some of this I'll just copy. Okay. The star material I use is very basic. So let's open that up. So we're gonna add a texture sample. We're gonna grab the star texture we pulled from the website, which is actually a different one than I'm using. Do we want this one or the Milky Way one? Let's look. This one's a bit more subtle. This one's a bit, I'm gonna use the subtle one actually, without the Milky Way. This one. And what we're gonna do, I like to, if you add in a panner node here, and just give it a very small effect value, so 0.0003. I found that sometimes makes the stars twinkle a little bit, which I kind of like. I'm gonna add a multiplier here. I'm contrasting this because I'm going to create a mask here. So cheap contrast. In case you want to make the stars brighter. I don't think we actually need to, but this is and I'm just going to use brightness question mark. If not, we'll just use just the straight up texture if we don't want to use the brightness. That's in case we want to brighten up the stars. You could also hook this up to, and then this we're going to adjust some of the material settings as well. We're going to make it an unlit texture. That's the main thing we're going to do. And we're not using this by default, which is good. So there we go. Very pretty. You notice when we did that, we lost our sun. So we're just going to add in another kind of cool setting at the end here. If you do Control-1, I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. Any number actually. What that means while you're in viewport is if you press 1, you'll go back to that view. So let's say you're like working on this and you're like, oh man, that's such a cool kind of angle to look at things, but I still want to be able to move around. You can kind of just save that. So that's Control-2, so you can get a 1, 2, maybe a nice close-up. You know, something like this. Control-3, so 1, 2, 3. And it's a cool way to kind of like bookmark different angles as you're working in your scene. Just saved everything there. Is our aurora showing up? Yes, it is. Very nice. And we're actually going to add in a sun. And the way we're going to do that is we're actually just going to add in a physical sun. Like, heck, why not? So we're actually going to make a mini little blueprint for this. So here we go. Blueprint actor, we're going to call this BP sun. And we're going to throw something into the construction script here, which we are going to get the, we're going to create a variable here called directional light, or scene direction, like this. No, not. Which is just this guy right here, object reference. We're going to make this instance editable. First, we're going to check to see if this is valid. It's going to be the second one there. The macro. We're going to grab the light component. We're going to get the intensity. We're going to add in a sphere here. And we are going to create, if this is valid, create a dynamic material instance. Create dynamic, that one. Let's create a light material, which is, I think, very, very simple. So this is kind of, we'll call it sun, m_sun. So a vector, which is going to be our color. We're going to have intensity. And then I'm going to call one called extra glow. And we're going to multiply this twice and make this an unlit material. The reason why we're multiplying this twice is this kind of correlates with, we can leave those at 0 actually, because this correlates with how things are set up in the actual light right here, which we can actually increase. Keep it at 3. So in our sun, the sphere, we're going to save this and put this onto our sun, the material right there. And we're also going to dump that into the create dynamic material. And then we're going to do a sequence of 3 different things here. I'm going to create one more variable called extra glow, which is going to be a float, and we're going to default that to at least 1. And we're just going to hook this in here, and then we're going to set some scalar parameters from here. Set, and we're going to set the scalar parameter. We're also going to set a vector parameter, and then the last one, so we're going to set one more scalar parameter right here, which will be extra glow. And then we're just going to give these the names that you have here. So color, leave the vector, intensity will be this scalar right here, and then extra glow will be this one right here. Okay. And then these other ones are actually, we're actually going to derive the values from the light source. So we'll get the light color. What do we call it? Get light. Oh, not from here. Intensity goes into intensity. Get light color from here. Right there. Which will go into the vector. And this little guy, so now we have a sun. So let's pull it into here. We want to grab the light source, and I'm going to give it some, did we save it? Oh, extra glow. We also want to make it instant edible. There, extra glow. I'm going to turn this up quite a bit to like 32. And then we are going to just parent this to the light source, and I'm going to reduce all its values. And we are going to give it an offset, a pretty big offset. So let's see, maybe not that big. I'm going to give it like this. So where did it go? It went there. This will be a negative value. So whatever this is, negative, I'm going to add a few more 9s. So you notice it goes there, and we're just going to scale it up. Maybe not quite that big, just like, or yeah, we'll scale it up 1, and then we'll push it away a bit further. I want it to be a bit bigger than that. I'm going to link this so I can, and then deselect it so I still have the values. Scale it, maybe make this like 3. That looks pretty good. So there we go. And then that, because it's parented to the light there, means it will move around, and you got your sun. There you go. Okay. I'm just going to go over, we went over the moon, went over the stars, went over the sun, how to label and sort everything. We kind of went over the methodology behind that. We're going to just close these down. We went over how to make the clouds. We went over how to make our planet. Don't need that. Went over the storms, the CVar, which I think we have set up, right? Yep. Right here, there's our CVar. The atmospheric settings. I think that's it. Okay, just wanting to make sure to cover everything. This is a very long video, but I think it's a super nice effect. And I hope you learned something from it. Feel free to modify this however you want. If you find better ways to do things, I'd love to hear about them in the comments. If you have questions, of course, or parts that like don't make sense to you or just quite confusing, or even suggestions on how like better to format these things, if you want them edited down or quicker or things like that, I'm open to hearing what works for y'all. And if not, I hope y'all have a great day.